Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again here with another reaction to Mr. Meltdowns with Big Phil Campion on the Force TV, Force Radio podcast. So let's jump back in.
Someone else said to me very early in my career as well, if you find a job that you enjoy, you're never going to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you obviously loved your soldiering. I mean, I loved my soldiering. You know, I think it was, you didn't feel like you were at work. You felt like you were just, it was a way of life, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
I used to just want to go on exercise. I couldn't be ready, get my kit ready and everything. Other people were like, oh God, some, because some soldiers like.
So how many ops do you reckon you did in the end? You did far more than I ever did.
Oh, I did loads of ops.
Yeah.
Like the big, obviously you did your secretive ops, what you can't say about when you go out in small teams and doing them little jobs. Went on a fair few of them from flash to bang, where literally one time I was shopping in the big Tesco's and in the area fitted was Tesco's was saying there we knew a job was go. You get the call and then you're away, and then flash to bang within 48 hours you've been away. And you're watching catch up match of the day, and within that time period you've been involved in literally, a lethal contact. You've been involved in something where it's been really, really dangerous and then basically deadly. And you've gone, and then
you sat in your front room.
And then you sat in your front room. So obviously, I've been on them type of secret jobs and quick jobs, but also on the longer ones. Yeah, we was over, obviously Bosnia. We went on lots of longer tours over there, and then in Iraq. That was quite airy because when we went, it was basically training up for it. We knew it was going to happen. It was not if, it was when. We knew. So
amazing, man. Just the operational tempo. And I know I've spoken about this in other videos when people have asked about having done the New Zealand and the Australian selection. I was like, man, there's a whole bunch of Kiwis that have gone over, they were badged members in NZ, and then they went and joined 22, primarily because, my understanding anyway, and speaking with a handful of those guys that have done that, primarily because of the operational tempo. It's just, next level, just at a level that, and at a tempo for a large group of operators that, at least during that time, NZ wasn't, not that I'm aware of, NZ wasn't experiencing. So a lot of those guys were heading over to 22, and I think even at the same time, I don't even know if Australia was experiencing the same level of operational involvement or tempo and that sort of stuff. So actually, while I'm on it, that has been a question that's come through from a few people. I think a few lads over in the UK actually have asked that question: why didn't I go and join the British one? Why didn't I do the UK one first after what had happened in NZ? So there's been people that have seen one of my other videos where I spoke about what happened, where I almost went to jail. And I think for me, it was always on the cards to go NZ, Australia, UK, back to NZ. That was just the route that I had mapped out for myself. But I think the question was around, do I regret not going, given what happened, or given my decision to leave the Australian regiment? Do I regret not going to 22 first beforehand? No real time to regret it, eh? Like, it is what it is. I made the decision that I made, and you live with that decision, and you can't go back. I can't go back and change it. So would I, knowing what I know now, would I do a few things differently? Most probably. Yep. I would most probably do a few things differently. But no point dwelling on that. Can't do anything about it. So that's my answer for that. I love the time that I had in Australia. I just didn't look far enough ahead. Couldn't see the forest for the trees, and couldn't see the opportunity, or the opportunities to be able to that I would get what I wanted in terms of operational tempo and that sort of stuff. But I needed to suck it up and do some of these blinking other courses that I wasn't very happy about by the time that I'd made it there. So anyway,
The 2001, and as soon as 2001, and everybody knows where they were when that happened.
Yeah.
I was down on the CT doing the CT ranges, and then we just got in the interest room, and we were watching in the interest room, as you know, they got the big TVs in there, and watching this happen before us. I'm like, wow, I thought, is this a movie? What was on? And it was, you could see the planes going into the trade towers. And I remember one of our guys saying that's it. Now I'm getting the goose pimples, saying we're going to be full on, and that was. And then it was a case of G and A. They were just then the Afghan. They were doing Afghan all the time from 2001, and B and D. We were getting ready for Iraq, and we were doing Iraq, and then later on we all sort of joined in. But so you had like your Iraq squadrons and your
must have been because I'd left by then, so must have been a crazy time.
That was full on because it was basically David Sterling stuff. You were behind enemy lines doing that, getting into. I remember reading the old Andy McNabb ones and all about the first Gulf War. Yeah, I'm like, wow, I'm going to be doing this. So we was doing the stuff behind enemy lines. Yeah, getting just inserted, and as a troop, you just got dropped off, and then we all met up and doing our things, and it was typical proper SAS operations. Yeah. And the guy we was talking about just before, he was our troop leader and troops that. So you can imagine with them, we was full on. Yeah. And we was hunting them, and you know, all the ambushes. It was great. So basically that was all the rural living in the desert stuff done. And then we moved on, progressed. As soon as Baghdad fell, we just got, right, we need you in there. So we went from rural full-on operations full-time to urban full-on operations, and this time they had a big deck of cards, and people know about this, it's not secret. It was the top 52 on the Ace of Spades, talking to Lemmy. Was it Lemmy? The Ace of Spades was Saddam, and then he had his
sons of Yehuda and Kusa and all that sort of stuff.
But out of the pack of 52, they had generals and they had all other people, you know, Chemical Ali, whoever.
Comical Ali.
We used to call him Comical Ali. No, we've got no troops here. There's nowhere near us. As the bullets are coming through the wall. We're going to win this.
I remember those comments and listening to it on the radio and hearing all those things, and Comical Ali came about. Yeah, those are there's some funny memories that he's bringing up when he's talking about that. We were still out in the desert, like, you know, our AO had been cleared. Man, we would have loved to have been retasked, redeployed, but we weren't. Not at that time, anyway. But you know, these guys too got the retasking, redeployed, and gone from out in the rural desert area into the urban operations, and just, man, the skill development and the experience that they would have gained from that, from guys going into that, the way that they would have refined and honed their skills in and around CQB, in and around that urban environment. Man, I feel like, you know, when I was in the regiment at the time, I feel like we missed out, you know, on opportunities there to not only try to make a difference and get those those HVTs or high value targets, but to also develop some potentially new SOPs or test the ones that we had, and then look to develop them and improve them even more for the next lot coming through. But I'm sure I'm confident they're in good hands now. But man, these guys, they've done some stuff, man. The lads in 2-2.
All everybody's left is last man standing, like Colonel Custer. But basically, so then we went straight from doing full-on desert operations, ambushes, you name, you know, all the fun, like Mad Max, going straight into doing urban operations. And it was after people, it was sometimes not 1, 2, 3 house raids a day, because they just come in and say, this is obviously Baghdad's just chaos now. Yeah. And we go into this American unit. They had all the armor for us. So basically, they'd be our outer perimeter. And it'd be a case of just jump in the back. Right, we're going now. There's another one. Somebody's come in, said they think they know where such and such is. So we just roll up. The American Bradleys would do their outer perimeter for us. And we'd go in and do the house raids. And you don't know what you're going to see on that. We were briefing each other up as we were going. Because I was patrol commander, just saying, right, Same again, number 1, number 2, or I'll go number 1 down, and just doing the briefs because we know what it's like, don't we? So you just roll with it. It's a drill because you've practiced over and over again. So it's just that drill comes in. But what it was, you didn't know every time you went into that building what you was going to face. Sometimes there'd be nobody there. Sometimes it'd be the wrong house. Sometimes there'd be certain elements left there wanting to put up a fight. Sometimes, there'd be kids, women, children, there'd be dogs. It was just a case of none of this nice. Before a lot of the operations, we had a good idea of what was going on. We've had surveillance. We had time to plan it.
Time to do all that sort of stuff. Now you're just on the hoof.
This was on the move. Somebody's coming in. They think they know where such and such is. And that was the sort of information. So it was full on. And you just didn't. It was like, as I said, 1, 2, 3 house raids doing them a day.
And this is the part, like what he's talking about there, it's awesome to hear because for me and for those that have asked questions in and around selection and preparation to get into the regiment, and some people are thinking too many steps ahead, in my opinion. What's cycle like? What's it like when you're in the regiment? So, mate, just sort out your application first and get on selection, get through that first stage gate. But with people wanting to know every little detail about, what happens here? What about this? What if you do that? What if I say something like this? What do I say if they ask me this? These are some of the questions that I get. I haven't done. There's some there that I haven't done Q&A videos on because thankfully they haven't come up too often, but in a few broad brushstrokes when they're asking that and trying to get into that level of detail. I know I've spoken about detail and wanting to know everything with Greg Pup Johnson, ex-Kiwi SAS guy, who put it great, like knew about the 60 clicker, that didn't help, knew about the sand dunes, that didn't help, knew about this, knew about that, didn't help. To a degree, like the information and knowledge does help 100%, especially on operations. But when you're on selection, when you're on cycle, and when you're in the regiment, they're also looking for, in my opinion anyway, they're also looking for people that can roll with the punches, that can adapt on the fly, that improvise, adapt, and overcome, that can be flexible, that can take a limited amount of information and then roll with that and make decisions whilst you're moving through. And this is an example of what Mel's talking about. So people getting worked up around wanting to know, every little detail as much as they can. My belief, my opinion, my observation based on my experience, I think you're missing the point, or missing a key point of what it means to be an operator within the regiment. They need people that are professional and want to know the details, but when you don't have all the details, like this example here, we think we know where such and such is, and we think they're in this area. You get no other information other than that. Are there women and children there? Is there going to be resistance? How many numbers have we got? Have they got any sort of early warning set up? What's that area like? Is that area friendly and supportive of this person? Or are they anti-coalition? All a whole bunch of stuff that you'd like to know if you could. But listening to what he's talking about, and a lot of times, like my thoughts, you just don't have that opportunity to get all of that type of information or intelligence as much as you might like. So having the flexibility, having the confidence and ability to think quickly on your feet, those are key parts of what they're looking for. So you hear that term, a thinking man soldier. That's what they're looking for in my experience anyway, my opinion, in the SF space. So take that for what it's worth, but it's listening. If you heard Mel, what he's just talking about here, that's a reason and an example why I share that.
And that was constant for a while. So obviously you had full-on urban operations. So when we pulled out from there, as you know, it was just an ongoing thing then. It was a rotation. Yeah. Because they went from the insurgency. So apart from after all these bad guys, you were also then, after all the insurgents, all the bomb makers, all the other bad people who were doing bad things. So
were you getting any respite? Were you getting any time off in between at all?
No, sort of like that was full on. And then eventually, over a long time period, we moved out. And by that time, you was burnt out. And then they got the next squadron come in. Yeah. And then they were doing rotations of certain months. And then we was running around. But it got that busy. Obviously, blokes and squadrons in Iraq, in Afghanistan, plus all the other missions. What was still going on.
The other stuff didn't go away.
No, there was still all the Bosnian stuff.
All the other stuff, wasn't it?
So at times there was not, as you know, there was nobody left in everything apart from the Skellington crew. What had to be there just in case something happened in the UK, something in case an aircraft got taken on or something. So it was just the workload just went from well, before it was always busy. If you went on operations, you were training and doing different things. But then it just went off the roof for them few years. So, and then it just didn't stop, Phil, because when I got out, I decided to get out. I did my full time and did over my time. I did 24 years then.
You got the Sergeant Major?
I got Sergeant Major, but not at the squadron. Yeah. By the time I left, I was Sergeant Major. I actually got to W01 within the Green Army. So I can say that, you know. I actually did jobs as a Sergeant Major as well in the SAS. Yeah. When I was down at ITC, for instance. Yeah. Brecon. So what happened was, when I did get out, it was a good time. It was like the very end of it was only end of 2005 and 2006. And one of my best mates, who's same squad, and you know him, he was out, and at this time he's working for an American news firm, and the American news crews didn't want American SF looking after him. They wanted Brits, and I think the reason being, there's apart from us being better, obviously, but no.
We won't go down that route.
Yeah, we won't go down that route. No, we're all
I've
special
publicly
forces.
said it many times. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, but the thing was, mate, we definitely, and as you know, the news want to be covert, but they just want get in there and get out. They don't want an high profile. Big,
don't want no faff.
And they don't want a big meaty bloke. You know, they just want to get in there. They want somebody to blend in so you could be part of that news crew. So I literally left. And I remember being in Baghdad thinking, I'll never come back to this place again. I found myself like less than 2 years later, I'm back in Baghdad. But this time, instead of being on the offensive, where you know when it goes noisy, you got all the backup, you go and get all the medics, you go and get everything. It's dangerous when you first get in there, but then when it goes noisy, you're going to have all the backup. This time I found myself, I'm just working with 4 lads. You go out, one lad would be resting, one lad would be on the comms back in the hotel where we're staying, and the other 2 lads, me and say my mate from the same squadron, we're all from the same squadron. We'd be going out, but this time, instead of on the offensive, you're on the defensive. You're with news crew, because they like to have ex-British special forces.
You've got to keep out of trouble instead of getting into trouble.
So you have to blend in with that news team. So used to be in civvies, obviously you had a pistol down your pants, and then you had a long weapon, your rifle and your machine gun. That was in a tripod bag. So when the news crew would be setting up the cameras, we'd have that in the tripod bag. We'd be their eyes and ears, but we'd look as if we're part of them. We didn't stand out. Yeah. So we'd just get there, and suddenly there'd be an incident anywhere in Baghdad, a big bomb gone off. Right, we go in. Away you go. Forget the story. And what we used to say, we'd roll more or less anywhere, because we say you can get away with it's no longer than 15 minutes, because after that they're all on their bat phones. That one of the number one targets, they want to get an American correspondent in that yellow orange boiler suit to cut the heads off. So they were prime target. Yeah. So people were like, wow, this is American crew here. So we'd be there, come on, get this filming done, get this filming done, get this filming done. And you know what it's like, now and again you'd have the odd correspondent saying, cut, let me do that another take. And we were like, you ain't doing any more takes.
We'll do a cutaway.
Yeah.
Quite hard case listening to him speak about that. There was a period of time there, where like flash to bang, something goes off, and then it might be in and around Baghdad, and the media want to go there. And there was a bit of that, and even later on there was still flashes of that, especially if it was pretty close. I remember an incident. If I remember, I'll talk about it later. But also part of that, and the reasoning, well, my thoughts anyway, my experience and what I saw with the Brits and the Kiwis that were there in the same company that Mel's talking about, was the ability to consult and let the media know, we're not going to that one, or yes we can, but we're going here, we're going to spend, it's maybe 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away. We factor that in, our route to get there, the fact that roads are probably going to be blocked in a lot of places, it's going to be chaotic, what's our route back? So you're doing all that information, or you're analysing all that information really quick, making a decision in terms of that area itself, choke points, etc. Can we get in, do this, and then get out within a reasonable amount of time? And sometimes if the answer was no, you're advising and telling the media, and they can get their backs up, like, well, what are you here for? Like, what are we here for if we can't go and get these stories that need to be told, that the world need to hear and that the world need to see? You get all that backlash from some of the correspondents. The bureau chiefs, I found, are pretty cool. Sometimes they might, question, but for the most part, they understood the rationale. So you're giving them reasons as to why. Here's why we can't do it this time around. And then sometimes we can. And I think that was some of the frustrating pieces for some of the correspondents. Oh, how come we had something like this the other day? We couldn't go there. Well, different location, different routes to and from that area, and in terms of their sympathies aren't the same as this particular area. There's a whole bunch of information that we needed to get and gather and then present in a pretty short amount of time. You don't always get to send a recce out there first. Sometimes you could, as we've spoken about in other reactions. Sometimes you could send out a little bit of a crew to do a recce to see what it's like first before the media come in. But we weren't working in big teams like Mel just spoke about. They had a 4-man team, one person resting, one on the comms, and 2 people out on the ground. Sometimes if there was something pretty big like the elections going on, you'd ramp up because you'd have more media, so therefore you've got to have more operators on the ground as well. So you might double and go from a team of 4 or 6 to 8 or 12 for that short period of time, and then wind back to sort of normal routine. But it's it's interesting listening to him speak about that, because the media, some of them are hard work, but a number of them were pretty good as well. But the correspondents wanting to make their name for themselves, they're wanting to be right in amongst it. And I do remember now, so I said if I remember I'll talk about it. There's a time I was working with for the BBC, pretty much working for them directly, and with an awesome group, some Brit guys and another Kiwi guy who was ex-badge Kiwi SAS, and then the other guys weren't ex-British SAS from what I understand. I think there might have been one guy, but he was more of a manager who was typically based back in the UK, and the other guys, I'm not sure what part of the UK Defence Force they were from. But there was literally a bomb that went off like not far outside the gate, not directed towards us, towards another area. And we thought, it's nice and close to home. It was about, 300, 400 meters in a straight line, if that. And so on the vehicle was maybe sort of a 600 meter sort of dog leg to get out through our security gates and the barricades and the VCP or the vehicle checkpoint area. Go out, do a dog leg, come back around and get into a place where we could park and then walk in with the cameras. So we did all of that because it was nice and close and we knew the area. Man, we had to get out of there quick. So walked in with the camera crew, the correspondent. So the rubble and everything's down. There are people in there wailing, crying, because there must have obviously loved ones, people in the building. We're standing back, not to go too close in, standing back, and the correspondent starts doing this thing, and then there's just this massive crowd of people starting to advance towards us, the camera crew, talking, quite upset, yelling, pointing their fingers at us, probably, thinking that we're responsible, the Westerners, and we had to wrap that up pretty quick. They did grab our cameraman. Some of them rushed towards. Thankfully, they didn't go to Hundies, but I think when they saw that we were armed as well, because we had all of that stuff concealed, jacket on, sidearm, long gun as well, and so to get them off, our cameraman, who was a South African fella, Tim was his name, good guy. I mean, they didn't have a massive hold of him, but they started pushing and shoving a little bit, which wasn't nice for him or for us to see. So we needed to grab him, pull him towards our side, and then just displayed the weapons and then telling them to get back, to go back. That was probably the only time that I can think of where we had to show our weapons. We didn't raise them up and point them at anybody. We weren't going to do that. We understood. They're upset, in terms of what's just happened in their area, but we needed to get out of there. Correspondent still wanted to stay a little bit longer too. I forget his name, which one that was. But we said, no, so we dragged them. We had to shuffle and started running to the car because some of them were still pretty keen and walking behind us and towards us. But we got in the vehicle and then we just bugged out of there. So they didn't get the full stand-up piece that they wanted to do. We made a decision based on the information that we had and our understanding of that immediate area, considering it was very close to where we were, but we didn't expect that. And so we learnt from that and then bugged out, got back to HQ. So anyway,
Film my fingers.
Only take you again as us taking you down. We're dragging you in that car and we're taking you away. But that was what it was like. So that was full on. Yeah. And the amount of incidents what happened in that time, as you know, it's on the circuit. Yeah. And even though I did that for 4 years, the same job, so 9-10 months a year, living in Baghdad with the same group of crews what were coming in, same bunch of lads. But obviously, over that time, it was really, really dangerous. And
it was dangerous, wasn't it?
Because you were on the defensive. When it goes, or if it went wrong, you aren't having any backup. Nobody, the cavalry isn't coming for you. You just the media. Nobody wants to.
People said to me, I once said to someone that
I'm just going to pause this here, just seeing the time. But yeah, he's right. You're on your own, man. You had numbers and, American media, and some of the information that we got was around, if something happens, call us, and if we can get to you, if we can do something, we will. It didn't instill a lot of confidence. Like we went out on every job expecting, understanding, knowing that we were on our own. So, man, some memories coming back to mind there while I'm listening to Mel speak. But anyway, I'll park this one here. Appreciate your time as always. If you stuck around this long listening to me babble on. But yeah, thank you for your time and for your support. Hopefully you get a little bit of insight from my perspective and 2 cents around it. Nothing but I can respect for 22SAS, and as I spoke about their operational tempo and the work that they've done and that they continue to do and that they will do going forward, because they're an incredible unit. Their legacy, their reputation speaks for itself, and long may it continue. So anyway, as always, the message is the same. Anybody going through any dark times, challenges, difficulties, man, just encourage you to keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put that one foot in front of the other and just take one day at a time. Know that things can do and will get better. Things won't stay miserable forever. I promise you, things do get better. You're not alone. It's okay to ask for help, and it's 100% okay to not be okay. So just stick at it. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.